1 week ago in Merida, Mexico, the 2026 Pokemon Go Merida Regional Championships were held. This was a pretty massive event with trainers flying in from all corners of the globe to compete for the chance to be crowned Merida Regional Champion. So far in the Precious Paths meta, we've had 2 Pokemon claim first-time regional wins. Shadow Gyarados in Toronto, followed up by Jellicent in Birmingham, and Merida was no exception. At the end of a long weekend of battling, Gourgeist claimed its first regional win. The trainer who won with Gourgeist, to no one's surprise, was Rise to Occasion. Rise to Occasion's team is as follows: Stunfisk, Shadow Scizor, Lapras, Florges running an anti-meta moveset of Chilling Water and Disarming Voice, Guzzlord, and the aforementioned Pumpkin Gourgeist. Today we're going to be going through the streamed games from Rise, showcasing his climb to the top. Rise's first streamed match of the tournament was his group finals matchup against Morato 98. And Morato is running a team that is very weak to Gourgeist. The lead is pretty decent for Rise, leading Gourgeist into Credilli. Credilli gonna look to farm up energy, try for a catch onto Galarian Moltres, but the patience of Rise, he holds onto his energy and hard punishes the Moltres safe switch with Stunfisk. Stunfisk is a complete wall to this Galarian Moltres because it has opted for Brave Bird over Payback. Discharge lands, that's sizable damage onto the Moltres. Moltres farms up to the Brave Bird, trying to CMP tie, but Rise is not going to fall for it. Instead, Rise is going to be no shielding. Brave Bird lands onto the Stunfisk. Rise looking for a Thunder Shock down that he is going to get. Credilli does have energy, and for Morato, he needed to bait out the Stunfisk to try and set up Empoleon to sweep, but unfortunately, Empoleon is still not going to like an 80 energy Gourgeist. Back in comes Credilli to absorb Mud Bomb that does do a little bit of chip damage. Stunfisk gonna get knocked out here by the Grass Knot, but this Gourgeist could very well run away with the game. Grass Knot takes the knockout, Rise waiting down the timer as he sends back in the Gourgeist. Gourgeist at the back-to-back Shadow Balls, and this is about to be a problem for Credilli. Credilli no shields, hoping it can survive. Shadow Ball lands, 1 HP remaining, and Credilli makes the last second Rock Tomb. Shield comes up from the Gourgeist. Gourgeist just has so much energy to work with. In comes Empoleon. Gourgeist already had back-to-back Seed Bombs. These Seed Bombs are debuffed, but with a Guzzlord in the back, Game 1 is looking very good for Rise. The shield does come up. In comes Guzzlord, and Guzzlord's pacing advantage is going to be very helpful in this matchup. Additionally, Empoleon can fire off Drill Pecks, but one Drill Peck really does not do meaningful damage to the Guzzlord. Rise has now reset that attack drop for later, so he has a full power Seed Bomb loaded in the back. Brutal Swing lands onto the Empoleon. Empoleon looking to farm up, trying to make it to the back-to-back Drill Pecks, but before he can get there, Rise gets the Brutal Swing. And this Brutal Swing getting the final shield is going to secure this game number 1, as Rise, if he wants to, he can just let the Guzzlord go. He has the Seed Bomb locked and loaded on the Gourgeist. Drill Peck is going to land, down goes Guzzlord, back in comes the Gourgeist, and that's going to be a Game 1 win in these group finals. Gourgeist knocks out Empoleon, and Rise is 1 win away from making day number 2. The battlers lock in for game number 2, Lapras into Credilli, but it's actually Morato who ends up safe switching out first. Morato gets aggressive, sending in Empoleon, and this line of 3 from Rise to Occasion is very weak to an Empoleon that's up energy. He chose to bench the Stunfisk. In the back, he has Guzzlord and Florges, and Empoleon could be a bit of a nuisance. Lapras is able to win the Zero Shield here, even though everything it throws is resisted. That's because Lapras is just absolutely cracked. But if Empoleon puts up a shield, then things can get a little bit uncomfortable, as Empoleon will get to exit with a ton of energy, and then energy will go pretty far. For Rise, he really has to hope that by sacrificing the Lapras, and hopefully using Guzzlord to neutralize the Empoleon, that Florges will be able to sweep endgame. Lapras desperately trying to make a last-second Sparkling Aria, but unable to get there. In comes Guzzlord, and Guzzlord will immediately be answered with this loaded energy from the Empoleon. Drill Peck is going to connect. Morato gets aggressive, pivoting out, sending in Credilli, and unfortunately for Rise, Florges doesn't really have anywhere to go so far. Brutal Swing lands onto Credilli. Rise can throw on alignment here and outpace, and Morato knows it. Morato fires off the Rock Tomb as soon as it's available, hoping this will knock out. Rise, no shields, Rock Tomb lands, it does not KO, and Rise will get the last second Brutal Swing. This is debuffed, but this should put the Credilli into Disarming Voice range, and in comes the Florges. Florges should be on track here to CMP tie Disarming Voice to the Rock Tomb. Nice decision there by Rise to throw on alignment, so that way he would guarantee that the Credilli would not be able to outpace. Credilli forced to put up the shield because they have Galarian Moltres in the back. They are so weak to Florges. Rock Tomb is going to be shielded. The Florges now at -1 attack. The acids do add up. Florges goes for the CMP, but there's a nice catch from Morato, catching the Chilling Water onto Empoleon. But for Rise, this still isn't bad, because Rise needed to get rid of the Empoleon anyway. The Florges does still have energy. It has the ability to reset the attack drop as needed, as in comes Galarian Moltres. Rise banks a Disarming, switches into the Guzzlord to reset his attack drop, and sends back in the Florges. Florges has to Fairy Wind this into Disarming Voice range, because Florges will win charge attack priority over the Credilli. Switch Clock for Morato not up quite yet. Rise farms up to the back-to-back. Will this be enough to KO? If it isn't, Morato will have a chance to snipe and try and win the game. Disarming lands, sends in Credilli, tries to snipe, but Rise with a prediction. He fires off Disarming Voice, denying that Rock Tomb from Credilli. Back in comes the Moltres. It's not making a fly, and Rise is on to day number 2. Rise's first opponent for day number 2 is out of pocket, and Rise gets the lead call right. Dominant lead win, Shadow Scizor into Azumarill. Pocket's going to be retreating out of the matchup, safe switching into Licky Licky. Rise not switching out just yet. He banks a ton of energy on Shadow Scizor and gets a catch and sneak onto the Stunfisk. Unfortunately for Pocket, he was going for a Body Slam bait, so that ends up being a massive swing of momentum for Rise. Add to that the fact that Rise got so much Bullet Punch damage in on the Licky Licky. The Bullet Punches may potentially allow Stunfisk to knock out with a bunch of Thunder Shocks and 2 Mud Bombs instead of normally it needs 3. Mud Bomb number 1 going to be launched at Licky Licky. Pocket not going to be shielding up Licky Licky, as he will be able to survive the second, but with a few more Thunder Shocks, it looks like the Licky Licky will get KO'd. Pocket goes for the Body Slam bait. There's the bait call from Rise. Shadow Ball would have been very close to knocking out, but Rise clearly thought his Stunfisk could hang on. Rise now gets the Mud Bomb into Licky Licky. That's going to be taking the knockout. Pocket sends in Azumarill, but since he didn't land the Shadow Ball, the bubble does not KO, and that means that Stunfisk gets a last-second discharge. Rise just going to play for alignment here, letting himself get farmed down. He doesn't make another discharge, but he has so much energy on the Scizor that he already has a Trailblaze. Trailblaze will be devastating damage into Azumarill. Pocket's going to be no shielding, hoping he can hold on. Azumarill does survive. Pocket makes it to the play rough. Rise puts up the shield, and Pocket's going to need to sweep with a shield advantage Fortress. In comes the Fortress. Bug Bites will absolutely shred Scizor. Scizor fires off the boosted Night Slash, and Pocket is going to give up the first shield of the match. But in the back, Rise has that ever-trusty Florges, and Florges is very, very safe in this matchup. Pocket doesn't really have a hard counter to Florges. One could argue that Florges' most difficult matchup is Galarian Corsola, but with Disarming Voice, Florges can still put up a pretty good fight there. Florges applies that Chilling Water debuff immediately. Rock Tomb is going to be debuffing the Florges right back, but because of that Chilling Water debuff, Florges actually tanks that quite well. Florges making it to Chilling Water number 2. This is going to be getting the Fortress very low. Fortress kind of running out of options. Pocket forced to put up the shield. Pocket will have the switch timer available. A catch could be key. He's farming up. Rise is farming up. He does not let the catch happen. Scizor snipes down the Azu, and back in comes Fortress. Fortress fires off the Sand Tomb. Shield comes up from Rise. Rise just wants to force all of Fortress's energy and get as much Bullet Punch damage as he possibly can to ensure that he can get the KO with Chilling Water. Scizor was almost at the Night Slash, so Sand Tomb has to be thrown basically instantly, and now there's just no energy remaining on the Fortress. So Rise, with that Shadow Scizor Florges combination, takes game number 1, and he's 1 win away from winners semifinals. The battlers lock in for game number 2. Rise now leading Stunfisk into the Corsola for Pocket. Now this is a neutral matchup, but it does favor Corsola. Rise is going to get aggressive. He's pivoting out and sending in the Florges. Florges is going to fire off Chilling Water immediately, applying a debuff to Pocket. Now Pocket has to decide, is it worth it to desync the timers and stay in to throw a move? Pocket farming up a ton of energy, and Pocket will actually fire off the Nightshade. Rise more than happy to no shield here. He's already applied that debuff, so Nightshade does not hit as hard as it typically would. In comes Licky Licky. Licky Licky can't quite make it to the Body Slam before Rise applies yet another Chilling Water. Licky Licky absorbs this damage. Licky Licky undertaps the Body Slam to try and take a knockout onto Florges, but Rise knows how valuable Florges is in this matchup. He's putting up the shield. He knows that Pocket desynced the switch timers, so Rise is actually able to save almost 2 Chilling Waters and send in the Stunfisk. This Licky is debuffed, it is switch locked, and it is forced to throw energy to try and get its timer back. Shadow Ball is going to land. That's doing nothing to the Stunfisk. Stunfisk farming up as much energy as it possibly can to the back-to-back Mud Bombs. Pocket's going to be no shielding. His switch timer is finally back available, so he can switch out of the Licky, reset the debuff, and send in Corsola. Corsola behind on energy, going to have to take a Mud Bomb. Rise's switch timer will be up in just a few short seconds. And Rise, he can survive a Nightshade here, so he's more than happy to let this go. So Corsola will finally get some damage onto the Stunfisk, but switch timer's up, and in comes Shadow Scizor. And look at this, Shadow Scizor gets the full farm down of Galarian Corsola as Pocket gets punished for the desync timers. In comes Licky, and that's immediately answered with Night Slash. Pocket has 2 Protect Shields, he's going to need to use it here. The shield comes up, he's going for the Body Slam bait, and Rise is going to be putting up the shield. Question is, does Licky have the Shadow Ball here? No, it does not. He's just shy of the Shadow Ball, and instead is forced to settle for a Body Slam. Scizor is very glassy, but Body Slam is not going to be enough to take the knockout. In comes Fortress, and Fortress is immediately hit with the Night Slash. Night Slash is going to be getting that final Protect Shield from Pocket, but Rise can just switch back into the Stunfisk. The Stunfisk has just been an absolute nuisance in this series for Pocket, and Stunfisk will begin to chip away with Mud Bombs. Fortress is not even going to get a farm down here. Another Mud Bomb is available, so that's going to force Fortress to look to take the knockout with Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb lands, Stunfisk survives, Stunfisk gets the Mud Bomb on damage registration error. Mud Bomb should put this Fortress pretty close to Chilling Water range. To be fair, there's almost 2 Chilling Waters loaded on the Florges, so either way, this would more or less come down to a catch. This Chilling Water should basically take the knockout on Fortress. Fortress survives on low HP. In comes Scizor, sniping down the Licky. Fortress gets farmed down as well. Rise takes the 2-0 series victory, and he's on to the winners semifinals. Rise's opponent in winners semifinals is Paul Garcia 7. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's a dominant lead win for Rise, leading Gourgeist into Shadow Marowak. Paul's going to save switch into Empoleon. Rise has an answer available in Stunfisk, but is actually going to choose to stay in with the Gourgeist. Gourgeist fires off the Seed Bomb. Rise clearly making the read that this is an attempt at baiting out the Stunfisk, so he's going to save the Stunfisk for the endgame, and instead, with a shield advantage, send in Guzzlord. Guzzlord immediately going to be pressured by Drill Pecks from the Empoleon. Empoleon, by shielding up that Seed Bomb, does still have quite a lot of HP remaining. Paul knows that a Brutal Swing is not going to come close to knocking out from here, so he's more than happy to let this go on the Empoleon and look to farm up. Guzzlord will be in a range where Drill Peck could set up a farm down, so Guzzlord is going to be putting up a shield. Guzzlord can now look to throw a move. Brutal Swing going to outpace the Empoleon. Paul now has a difficult choice to make. Do you invest both shields in the Empoleon? Paul says no. Paul's just going to let himself get farmed down, and now go for massive farm with the Marowak. Marowak will get a pretty healthy energy head start, but the energy does not go very far into the Gourgeist. Gourgeist, obviously as a grass type, is going to be resisting Bone Club. So for Paul, if he wants any kind of damage in that matchup, he's going to have to go for the Rock Slide. Marowak does get the farm down, but lost a ton of HP along the way. In comes Gourgeist, there's a pivot into Credilli, and this is a big problem for Rise. Rise saved the Stunfisk, anticipating it was going to be one of Azumarill, Galarian Moltres, or Charjabug in the back, but it's not. It was a 3/4 chance it was going to be something good for Stunfisk, but it's the Credilli, and this is a problem. Stunfisk hits the field immediately under threat from devastating super effective damage from Grass Knot. Grass Knot lands onto the Stunfisk. Stunfisk, absolutely reeling, returns fire with the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb lands onto Credilli, but importantly, Credilli is not in range where a second Mud Bomb could knock out. So for Paul, he's more than happy to look to overfarm here. Stunfisk, Mud Bomb is not going to take the knockout. Paul's switch timer is up, and he's going to take full advantage. In comes the Marowak. Marowak getting as much energy as it possibly can before knocking out the Stunfisk with this Bone Club. Bone Club will take the KO. Rise gets to send back in the Gourgeist, but the Gourgeist is completely energy dry, and Paul Garcia has found a way to play out of that Nightmare lead. Rock Slide shielded up by Rise. Rise needs a farm down here to have a chance, but he does not get it. The Marowak is too bulky. It survives the Incinerate, makes the Rock Slide, KOs the Gourgeist, and that's going to be a Game 1 win for Paul Garcia. If Rise wants a trip to Winners Finals, he's going to have to win the next 2 games, and the lead is a little bit tricky, leading Lapras into Galarian Moltres. Now, Lapras has absolutely no fast move pressure in this matchup, but does have access to super effective Ice Beam, and if the Moltres is neutralized, then Gourgeist should be very strong and back. Rise goes for the Sparkling Aria, bait, and Paul Garcia making all the right reads, a stone cold bait call, but Paul is going to look to take devastating damage with Brave Bird. Rise now has to get a shield call right. Rise shields at the last second, gets the call right that it is the Brave Bird, and Rise will immediately go for Sparkling Aria. He wants this Galarian Moltres gone, but Paul says not so fast. Shield comes up from the Moltres. Moltres gonna try and make it to another Brave Bird. Gets there. Now Rise has to decide, is this worth going down both shields? Rise says no. Moltres takes the knockout, and in comes Guzzlord. Paul's gonna pivot, sending in Marowak, but Marowak's about to get absolutely deleted by the Gourgeist. Gourgeist has such a good matchup here. Marowak farming up to the Rock Slide, and Rock Slide was able to KO last game because the Gourgeist had already taken quite a lot of damage. In this game, the Gourgeist is very healthy. The Marowak has already taken enough Incinerate damage that Seed Bomb will KO. Paul forced to let this go. If Paul tries to snipe down the Gourgeist, Rise can fire off the Seed Bomb to burn the Switch Timer and then get Guzzlord back onto the field. Paul predicts that play, brings in Credilli, but Rise waits the turn, does not blind through the Seed Bomb, and instead will get to fire off the Shadow Ball. Paul shields up the Shadow Ball. Rise switches into the Guzzlord. Guzzlord gets the Brutal Swing before the Rock Tomb debuff gets applied. Landing non-debuff damage onto this Credilli will be very important because this Credilli is still very, very healthy. Credilli already at the Rock Tomb. No shield comes out from Rise. Paul still does have the Galarian Moltres, but it's going to be pretty difficult for the Moltres to gain any kind of a meaningful advantage. No catch comes out from Paul, and that means even though it's at -1, this Brutal Swing is going to land onto Credilli, and that puts Credilli pretty close to the red HP. Another Rock Tomb from Credilli. This time Rise is going to be putting up the shield. And for Paul, unfortunately, he's just running out of options in this game in number 2. Rise going to look to farm. There's the catch attempt onto Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres not able to make it to the fly. Rise fires off Sludge Bomb. He knows he's debuffed. He's guaranteeing the KO. And then he should just be one away from the Brutal Swing. Back in comes Credilli. He's switching out into the Gourgeist, and this resets his attack drop from the Rock Tomb and guarantees that Brutal Swing will take the KO. Rock Tomb knocks out the Gourgeist, but he has that Brutal Swing loaded on the Guzzlord. Rise, facing a trip to the loser's bracket, says no, claws his way back, and we're going to a winner-take-all decisive game number 3. The battlers lock in for game number 3. It's Guzzlord for Rise into Empoleon for Paul Garcia. This lead matchup is very neutral, so let's take a look at what these trainers have in the back. Rise has Florges and Lapras opting to bench Gourgeist for this game number 3. Paul Garcia has Credilli and Azumarill, and that Credilli looks to be terrifying for Rise's backline. Empoleon farming up a ton of energy. Paul tries for the Brutal Swing catch, but Rise is just simply too patient. Rise farms up massive energy on Guzzlord, full send into Sludge Bomb. Paul Garcia no shields, as Azumarill is very bulky. Sludge Bomb lands onto Azumarill. Rise farms up, trying for an Ice Beam catch, but now it's Paul Garcia's turn to be very, very patient. Holding onto the energy, verifying it's Lapras that switched in, and instead firing off the Play Rough. But Azumarill landing multiple Play Roughs into Lapras isn't really a problem for Lapras. There's already damage on the Azumarill, so even though this Lapras doesn't have Skull Bash, Lapras is still in a very comfortable position. Lapras absorbs both of those Play Roughs and can look to Psywave this into a range where double Sparkling Aria will take the knockout. Paul no shields. He's pretty much shown that he's very comfortable letting the Azumarill get KO'd. Rise goes for the Sparkling Aria, could have overfarmed more, but Rise clearly sees it as a priority to get Azumarill off the field. Sparkling Aria lands, down goes Azumarill. Paul has to decide, does he bring in the Empoleon? Empoleon does have a ton of loaded energy, but Paul says no. Paul brings in Credilli, and Rise could be in quite a bit of trouble, because where is his Florges going to go? There's an Empoleon and a Credilli. Credilli shielding up the Sparkling Aria, gonna look for a full farm down, but Rise switches out, gets aggressive, and sends in the Guzzlord. Guzzlord able to outpace Credilli. Credilli with the no shield, but this is valuable damage. Credilli has lost a lot of its HP. Rock Tomb from the Credilli. Shield comes up from Guzzlord. Rise knows Guzzlord is his best bet to try and get rid of the Credilli and the Empoleon. In comes Empoleon. Switch timer up for Paul Garcia. Empoleon Drill Peck will not take the knockout. Rise no shields. Paul tries to go for the CMP tie, but Rise is going to take the free Dragon Tail. Rise knows he has to shield here. He cannot afford to give up this energy. He's now at back-to-back Brutal Swings. But but thanks to that Rock Tomb debuff, Empoleon may be able to hold on here. Paul thinks he does. He no shields. He survives. Rise switches in the Florges. Florges Fairy wins down at Empoleon, one of its worst matchups. And suddenly, this endgame has flipped on its head. Rise fires off Chilling Water at Credilli, the no shield from Paul Garcia. Rise knows that a Disarming Voice will do way more damage, but all Rise needs in this moment is to just continually apply debuff after debuff to the Credilli. Because Rise has a move banked on Guzzlord in the back. The Brutal Swing is locked and loaded. By debuffing the Credilli, Credilli's gonna have to burn the final shield here. Can Credilli potentially get a farm down? No, it cannot. The Florges just too bulky after those Chilling Water debuffs. Florges will get KO'd, but the damage is done. Rise sends in the Guzzlord, clicks Brutal Swing, and Rise is gonna be moving on to Winners Finals. Down 0-1, back against the wall. Back-to-back wins, and he's guaranteed a top 3 finish. Rise's opponent in Winners Finals is Spartan L17, and this will be a best-of-5 series. Battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's a good lead matchup for Rise, as he leads Guzzlord into Shadow Scizor. Even though Shadow Scisor's bullet punches do shred through Guzzlord, Guzzlord's incredibly fast pacing, being able to outpace Scizor, is what makes this lead a winning one. Brutal Swing lands, and just like that, Scizor loses almost its entire health bar. Scizor can return fire with the Trailblaze, but Rise knows this will just simply fall short of delivering a knockout. So Rise is going to be no shielding. Trailblaze gets the boost, as it always does. Rise undertaps the Brutal Swing, knocks out the Scizor, and is able to win the lead. In comes Spartan looking for massive farm on Credilli. Credilli looking for an acid farm down, but Guzzlord is just a little bit too bulky. Guzzlord will leave with a parting gift of a Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing lands. Credilli does get the farm down and exits with an entire Rock Tomb. In comes Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor will take some pretty significant damage here from the Rock Tomb. Rise elects to no shield. He's saving shields for Lapras. In comes Shadow Altaria versus the Lapras, and this is going to be a bit of a tricky endgame. Altaria up energy, specifically the Shadow Altaria, could be a little bit of a problem. Lapras is incredibly bulky, but if Altaria can ever land a Sky Attack, then this matchup could get interesting. Sky Attack going to be launched at the Lapras. Lapras putting up the Protect Shield as it absolutely has to. And Lapras was able to successfully Sparkling Aria bait once to save a little bit of energy, but even doing that has not allowed it to catch up with the Altaria. Altaria able to grab the final shield with Sky Attack. Altaria farming up. Oh my goodness, what a catch! Spartan, when it matters most, catching the Ice Beam onto Credilli. Credilli gets fully KO'd, but that's the exact play Spartan needed to win this game. Because Spartan didn't need the Credilli. The Credilli is useless when there's a Scizor on the field. Altaria is going to look to close it out. Altaria shields up the Sparkling Aria. These Psywaves adding up. In comes Scizor and the perfect overfarm from Spartan, maximizing the energy gains, denying that Night Slash with the Sky Attack. Back in comes Lapras. Lapras has to hope it can get the Psywave down, and it just simply cannot. What an unbelievable catch from Spartan L17. Sky Attack knocks out the Lapras, and Spartan takes game number 1. The battlers lock in for game number 2. It's Shadow Scizor for Rise into the Furret for Spartan. This is a very neutral lead matchup. It can play out either way. Furret is so bulky that even with all the bullet punches, Shadow Scizor cannot take the knockout with the Night Slash. In the zeros, if Rise wants to take the KO, he's going to have to go for the Trailblaze or fire off the Night Slash back to back. Rise puts up the shield. He is investing heavily in this Scizor, and he's going to be full sending the Trailblaze. Spartan thinks about it, no shields, calls the Night Slash, and down goes Furret. In comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon looking for the Mud Slap down, but it does not get it. Shadow Scizor hangs on, making the Trailblaze, and Trailblaze will force a shield from Spartan. Spartan does get a 40 energy head start on Gastrodon just for that energy to go nowhere into the Gourgeist. Gourgeist going to be hit with the Water Pulse. Spartan stays in, trying to get a little bit of chip damage, but for Rise, he knows he walls everything, so he's more than happy to let this go. Water Pulse is going to land. Spartan tries for a catch onto the Shadow Altaria, but the catch attempt is unsuccessful, and now Rise will be full sending Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball shielded up by the Altaria. Rise doesn't want to desync the switch timers too much, so he sends in Guzzlord. Shadow Altaria has a huge energy head start. Spartan needs the back-to-back Sky Attacks. He is almost there, but unfortunately, almost is not good enough because Rise to occasion has back-to-back brutal swings locked and loaded. Spartan is only one Dragon Breath away from the game-winning Sky Attack, but he just cannot get there. Rise clicks brutal swing, down goes Altaria, and there's just simply no way without the Altaria for Spartan to beat the Gourgeist. Spartan sends back in the Gastrodon. Even if Gastrodon gets a full farm down, its energy is just completely walled off by the Gourgeist. Guzzlord unleashes Brutal Swing. That's going to be getting Gastrodon deep into the red HP. Guzzlord gets Gastrodon to 1 HP, switches into Gourgeist to absorb the Water Pulse, and the Incinerate goes through. Water Pulse is resisted. Gourgeist is going to be able to hang on. Gourgeist survives. Down goes Gastrodon, and we've got an even series going into game number 3. Battlers lock in, and it's a very nice lead for Spartan, leading Gastrodon into Shadow Scizor. Now this is a matchup that Scizor does not want to be in. The Rise opts out, safe switching into the Guzzlord, and Guzzlord is going to be answered with Credilli. As a static even energy matchup, this matchup favors Credilli, but here, this Guzzlord is up so much energy that it's going to get a second non-debuff Brutal Swing. If this lands, Rise can flip this, and Spartan knows it, so Spartan is forced to burn a shield. And shield advantage is exactly what Rise wants out of this mid-game, because Gastrodon is only strong into Shadow Scizor when it has shields to hide behind. The moment it's down shields or down energy, then suddenly it's getting one-shot by super effective Trailblazes. Guzzlord gonna make another Brutal Swing. It's debuffed, which means that the Credilli can hang on, but Credilli just can't get a farm down. Guzzlord so close to the next Brutal Swing. And Rise, this is just going perfectly for him. He has shield advantage. The Credilli doesn't get a move into the Shadow Scizor as Scizor gets a huge energy farm down. And now Scizor is looking to threaten this Gastrodon. In comes the Gastrodon, unable to get the Water Pulse before the Trailblaze is ready. And Rise has the Disarming Voice Florges lurking in the back. Trailblaze shielded up by the Gastrodon. Rise staying on the field. Body Slam bait from Spartan, but even a Body Slam would come very close to knocking out. Rise is going to be no shielding. He calls the Body Slam. He's going to try and stay in here, trying to make the Night Slash, but he will not get there. It's Florges versus the world. With a standard Florges moveset, Rise would lose this game, but he has Disarming Voice. He will shield at the last second, shielding up the Body Slam bait. Spartan is going to make another Body Slam, throwing that on alignment. Rise has to decide, where does the final shield get used? Rise says not here. He's going to be no shielding, and that will pay off as it's the Shadow Altaria in the back. The Shadow Altaria is about to get absolutely eviscerated by Disarming Voice. Disarming Voice is super effective, devastating damage onto that Altaria, and for Rise now, he can just look to fully farm down the Altaria. The Altaria is never going to get to a second Sky Attack, and he'll be able to exit with back-to-back charge attacks for this Gastrodon. So he does get the full farm down, exiting with the back-to-back. Gastrodon just does not have the energy needed. Rise is going to go for Chilling Water into Disarming Voice, but either way, the Disarming Voice by itself probably would have done enough to KO, but either way, Rise is taking this game number 3, and he's only one win away from advancing to the Grand Finals. The Game 4 footage is incomplete. Rise leads Guzzlord into Shadow Scizor. Spartan throws 4 Bullet Punches and then catches the Brutal Swing onto Altaria. So now we're caught up. Brutal Swing lands, not going to do a ton of damage, and for Rise, he would love nothing more than to get switch advantage. There's a Scizor with energy, but Scizor with energy is not going to do much into Incinerate Gourgeist. However, what Rise does not know yet is that Spartan's final Pokemon is Furret, and Furret could be very deadly. Furret could potentially sweep his backline of Gourgeist and Lapras. Brutal Swing lands into Altaria, taking the knockout. Spartan can't ever really Sucker Punch down with the Furret, so Spartan will be forced to bring back in the Shadow Scizor. If Spartan shields here, this could be game over, but Spartan reads that it's the Gourgeist. Spartan no shields, calling the Scizor will not have play, and Scizor farms down. Rise is going to look to send in the Gourgeist here as his switch timer counts down, but the moment he does, in comes Furret, and this is a problem for Rise. Furret going to be hit with the Seed Bomb from the Gourgeist. Spartan still does not yet know what is in the back, so Spartan is forced to put up the shield. Rise reveals it's Lapras, and everything is looking good now for Spartan, because Spartan has so much energy on that Shadow Scizor, and importantly, due to the desync and switch timers, Spartan will be able to get the Scizor safely back on the field before it can get incinerated down by the Gourgeist. Lapras going for the Sparkling Aria. Shield comes up from Spartan. He knows he's now in a favorable position to win this game. This is a boosted Swift. This is going to be catastrophic damage onto the Lapras. Shield comes up from Rise. He needs to protect the Lapras at all costs, but this is where the desync and switch timers is costly. Spartan sends in the Shadow Scizor. Back-to-back Night Slashes locked and loaded. Night Slash lands, Lapras holds on, in comes the Gourgeist, but it cannot get the Incinerate down. One Bullet Punch and the Night Slash, and just like that, Gourgeist is deep into the red. Gourgeist gets farmed down by the Furret, back in comes Lapras, Lapras gets farmed down as well, and this winner's finals is going to game number 5. The battlers lock in, it's the Battle of Shadows, Shadow Scizor versus Shadow Altaria. Spartan gonna be staying in this matchup because he has Credilli in the back. He played ABA weak to Scizor, and unfortunately, Rise's Scizor is here to punish. Rise gonna do what smart Scizor players do in the Altaria matchup, look to shield and massively overfarm. Rise does not want to throw the Night Slash until the Night Slash will knock out. This makes it a lot more punishing for Spartan to no shield. Spartan no shields, getting knocked out by the Night Slash, and Spartan sends in his own Shadow Scizor. Rise has Florges in the back, so unfortunately for Rise, his Florges is not really going to go anywhere into a Scizor plus Credilli. But Rise is just so far ahead on Scizor. Night Slash after Night Slash crashing into Spartan. Spartan lost an entire Altaria, lost both shields as well, and Spartan will get the full farm down. Shadow Scizor energy is deadly, but the one thing the energy can't do much into is Guzzlord. Guzzlord hits the field for Rise, Trailblaze from Spartan, no shield comes out from Rise, and now this is a boosted Scizor. There's a very nice catch by Spartan, anticipating Rise would throw an alignment, and he's able to catch onto Credilli. Rise now knows his Florges really does not have a lot of value. Rise throws a Dragon Tail and sends in the Florges. This should set up the Florges on perfect timing to win Charge Deck priority here, getting the Chilling Water right as the Rock Tomb is available. That's a really nice optimization from Rise, as that means he now doesn't have to shield his Rock Tomb because it's debuff. Rock Tomb lands, doesn't do a ton of damage. Switch Timer not available for Spartan, unable to get Scizor back on the field, and Credilli is just going to get KO'd. But this is part of Spartan's plan. Spartan wants to get a big farm down on Florges to try and set up the Shadow Scizor to sweep. Scizor gets 3 Bullet Punches, and the game comes down to this. Rise brings in the Guzzlord. If Spartan gets the Night Slash boost, he wins the game. Rise puts up the shield, holds his breath. Do we see the Night Slash boost? We do not! No Night Slash boost for Spartan, and that means even though Night Slash is going to be landing into the Guzzlord, it will not be enough. Rise to occasion, gets the brutal swing. This is going to be taking down Shadow Scizor, and in a sweaty best of 5, Rise is on to winners finals. And Rise's winners finals opponent was actually the same trainer, Spartan L, in a fresh best of 5 series once again. Tough lead for Rise, Shadow Scizor into Gastrodon, he safe switches into Guzzlord, and this time there's no answer from Spartan. Spartan just gonna stay on the field with the Gastrodon and lose quite a lot of HP as that brutal swing connects. Gastrodon farming up a ton, going for the body slam, but Gastrodon does not win that CMP tie. Guzzlord able to fire off another brutal swing, and just like that, that problematic Gastrodon has basically been entirely removed from the field of play. Gastrodon does have the back-to-back body slams. Body slam number 1 is going to connect. In comes Shadow Altaria looking for a farm down, but it does not get it. Damage registration error. Guzzlord makes the brutal swing, and that is critical damage for Rise, because this means Rise can now go for a 1 shield farm down with the Shadow Scizor, and that energy is about to be terrifying. Spartan's Gastrodon does have a body slam bank, but it is incredibly low, and the Furret in the back is about to get torn to shreds by these Night Slashes. Spartan sends in the Furret. Rise actually opts to go for the harder hitting Trailblaze. Trailblaze will be shielded up by the Furret. Now these Bullet Punches are hitting extra hard, but it does mean that Rise, unfortunately, might not make a third charge attack here. Furret putting up the shield. Furret has to try and Sucker Punch all the way down, but if it does, it's going to take so much damage from these boosted Bullet Punches. Furret gets the farm down, but pays the price. It is so much energy just for that energy to go nowhere as Rise reveals his final Pokemon is Gourgeist. Gourgeist has a losing matchup into Furret, but does wall Furret's energy. So in this specific endgame scenario, there's not a lot that Spartan L can do. Spartan will go for the bait. Shield comes up from Rise. He knows he just has to protect the Gourgeist. Furret is going to transfer it, getting the Water Pulse on the Gastrodon, but Rise is now doubled up. And importantly, the Furret does not have the energy needed for a Swift. So Rise just gets the fire off the back-to-back Seed Bombs. Gastrodon impossibly low, but will get KO'd. Furret so close to the game-winning Swift, but does not have it either. That endgame got a little bit scary with the Incinerate deferral, but Rise staying calm, taking back-to-back knockouts, and he's up 1-0. The battlers lock in for game number 2, and it's a perfect mirror lead. Shadow Scizor into Shadow Scizor. In the back, Rise has Florges, and he has to be thrilled that he's seeing the Scizor on the lead, because Florges can do pretty well into most things that aren't the Scizor. Spartan is going to fire off the Night Slash instantly, trying to risk charge attack priority. Rise is not going to reveal who wins it just yet. Instead, Rise is going to farm up to the back-to-back Night Slashes, and Spartan has to decide, does he risk charge attack priority? Does he have a high enough attack Scizor? No, he's not going to risk it. Instead, he just takes the free Bullet Punch and puts up the shield. If Rise boosts, this will be a simul. Rise does not get the boost, and Spartan will get the farm down. But now Rise can send in the Guzzlord. Guzzlord more than happy to absorb energy from this Shadow Scizor. Scizor energy, unfortunately, kind of goes to die against Guzzlord. Guzzlord going to be answered with an aggressive pivot into Credilli. Rise firing off the Brutal Swing. A Brutal Swing, it's non-debuffed. And we've seen this again and again throughout the course of these games. Getting the non-debuff damage onto Credilli is so incredibly important. Spartan just wants the damage, so he fires off the Rock Tomb instantly. The no shield from Rise. Rise will go for an under tap on the Brutal Swing. And now the Credilli is 5 away from the Rock Tomb. And this is very important because Rise is looking to switch. In comes Florges. It's going to be a race to the charge attack, but Florges is online to make the Disarming Voice on charge attack priority. Credilli is not going to survive, and just like that, an entire Rock Tomb is lost. In comes Furret, and the moment Rise sees Furret, he knows he's in a pretty good spot. He's going straight for the Chilling Water. He's going to need 2 charge attacks to knock out anyway, so he may as well go for the debuff. Chilling Water is going to land. Spartan still has the Scizor, but the Scizor is incredibly low. Rise has 1 Protect Shield, not going to use it here. Swift is going to connect. He has to watch for a potential catch attempt from Spartan. Spartan tries for the catch attempt, but he does not get it. And now it's Disarming Voice time. Back in comes the Furret. No Protect Shields left to hide behind. Disarming Voice lands. Devastating damage. And Furret gets fully farmed down. And Rise is 1 win away from being crowned regional champion. The battlers lock in for game number 3, and it's a very familiar lead matchup. Shadow Scizor into Furret. Last time Rise went for the Trailblaze, he's going for the Trailblaze once again, but this time Spartan is prepared. Spartan shields up the Furret, trying to preserve HP on this Pokemon as Spartan returns fire with the Swift. Now Rise has to decide, he is a boosted Scizor. Is he going to protect it? Yes, he will. He puts up the shield. Spartan pivots into Stunfisk, but he's not going to like what comes next. Rise banks the Night Slash and gets the catch onto Gourgeist. Spartan is running an ABB line. He has to bait out the Gourgeist, but Stunfisk into Gourgeist is such a catastrophic matchup for the Stunfisk. Unfortunately, it seems like Spartan made a gamble that Rise would not bring the pumpkin, but Halloween came early. Mud Bomb after Mud Bomb crash into the Gourgeist. Rise just simply does not care. He gets the Seed Bomb, and this Seed Bomb is going to be putting Stunfisk very, very low. Switch timers are ever so slightly misaligned. Clock available for Spartan. He sends in the Furret. Furret immediately met with a Seed Bomb, and while this will not knock out, this is going to be getting the Furret very low. Furret barely able to hang on. Gourgeist just going to stay in. Furret able to make the Trailblaze, and Rise more than happy just to let the Gourgeist go. The Gourgeist did a great job at neutralizing that Stunfisk. Got the Furret low as well, and now Guzzlord gets the energy head start. In the back for Spartan, it's Shadow Scizor, and Spartan is in trouble. This is not a good matchup for that Shadow Scizor, and Guzzlord being up energy makes it even more tricky. Spartan knows he's going to have to no-shield 1, so he is going to survive just for Scizor to switch in and go for the CMP tie. Scizor snipes down with a Night Slash that forces the shield out of Spartan, and that is devastating. Spartan going for the Zero Bubble undercharge. Rise going to be letting this go. Night Slash will not take the knockout, and Spartan brings back in the Stunfisk. Stunfisk gets a bunch of energy, but unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough. Rise still has the Protect Shield to hide behind. Mud Bomb number 1 connects into the Guzzlord. Spartan going for Mud Bomb number 2, but unfortunately for Spartan, the damage is done. Shadow Scizor lost its energy. Rise is inevitable. Guzzlord, Dragon Tails down. In comes the Scizor, but it's too little too late. Rise to occasion. Makes the Brutal Swing, knocking out the Guzzlord, and he is the 2026 Merida Pokemon Go Regional Champion. All in all, massive congratulations to Rise on his 5th Regional Championship win. Rise remains the only player in competitive Pokemon Go to win a regional every season that Pokemon Go has been a part of the Pokemon Championship Series. 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and now 2026. A half decade of excellence from Rise, and he did it with a Pokemon that had never won an event before, Gourgeist. Gourgeist offers incredible coverage in a single Mon. Not only does it do a great job at shutting down the ground types, like we saw the Stunfisk in the final game, the Gastrodons of the world, but it also completely destroys Shadow Scizor. So it can be uniquely challenging and put a lot of pressure on opponents. A lot of trainers shied away from Gourgeist, worrying about its negative matchups, but Rise supported it well, and with another interesting choice of disarming Voice Florges, he took Merida by storm, and he is, once again, a regional champion. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Home Slice Henry, and this is More Slice Henry, my second channel where I cover content primarily related to the Pokemon Go Championship Series, educational content, and just any content that I want to make that doesn't fit on my main channel. If you enjoyed today's video, and if you enjoy Show 6 style content, here's how you can help support the channel. Leave a like on it, it helps the channel grow. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.